Here's the program timeline you guys have already been through. The first part of the program, which was the summer orientation, and then the first year, those of you who were at PSU attended these enrichment workshops, which lands you right here in this summer induction where a whole lot of things are going to start for you, beginning with this 4-week program in which you'll have 16 hours total, so 4 hours a week of workshops, which will facilitate your transition into your RLCs and also provide you with some of the core information that's essential for managing the program itself, the EXIO program, and hopefully transfer some of the skills that I think will be very useful when you are actually researchers in your RLCs, which is a part of the workshops that I hope is going to be really fun for you guys. And then during this time, we also want you guys to do 64 hours of research, which is done in accordance with your own schedule. So you are going to negotiate that time with your RLC leader, work when you can work, of course, and when they want you to work. So that amounts to about 16 hours a week. You can distribute that however you want throughout the 4 weeks. However, I suggest you try and keep that as close to 16 hours per week as possible to distribute the amount of information that you have to take in. I really liked that analogy that was used yesterday. The amount of information that we're throwing at you is like drinking from a fire hose. The RLC, the information that you get from your RLC is no different. So I think spreading that time out a little bit more and giving yourself some time to absorb some of this fire hose information is going to be really helpful. So that's what's happening now. So then during the academic year, once you've already had some of this transition, this sort of dipping your toe into the pool, as I like to call the summer induction, you'll then be set up to, during the academic year, take on both your coursework as well as 10 hours per week of research. So I think it's essential to establish a relationship with your RLCs, establish a set of expectations around when they want you to be there and how they want you to manage your time, so that when you add coursework to this commitment, you'll already have some momentum around both scheduling and also your comfort level within the RLC. So that's going to happen during the academic year. Then you're going to come back during year 4 and do a summer immersion, which is more of a full-time experience. You'll do 250 hours of research and 50 hours of workshop during that 4th year. So there's a lot going on, and you guys will get a chance to have all of these pieces of the program reinforced throughout the workshops, beginning with an introduction from Dr. Deshaw Wolf, who is going to turn on the hose for today.
Thank you. So today I'm here to talk to you all about the financial support that EXIO will be providing for you starting this summer through the end of the program. And it is going to be a lot of information, but just keep in mind that it usually takes 2 or 3 times of you hearing the information in context as you're looking through your financial aid packages, as you're filling out timesheets, all of that sort of stuff, before you actually get the information. Everything that I go over today, I will be distributing via email as well. So feel free to take notes now, but then also know that I'll be following up with you via email so that you can have the information right in front of you. Today I'm going to go over information regarding your pay for induction, also what it means to be a trainee, so this sort of new phase of your training or your program here in EXIO, what that means when it comes to the National Institutes of Health, and then also the different requirements you're going to have. As you were coming in, I distributed stipend forms. If you didn't get a form and I didn't write your name down as someone that I need to follow up with, please come and see me towards the end of the presentation so we can get those forms to you. You should have gotten 2 forms, and one was a stipend form that has your name on it, and then the second one was a W-9 form, which you'll need for setting yourself up to receive the stipend, okay? Feel free to interrupt me as I'm talking with questions, and whatever questions you have, feel free to ask. I know that it's going to be a lot of information for you to get at once, but it's going to be super important that you understand what's happening while you're on traineeship with EXIO, okay? So the first thing is just sort of going over a timeline so that you can understand in terms of financial support where you are now and where you're headed. So you're here in terms of the summer induction. So you'll be receiving up to $1,200 for the work you're doing in your RLC during this experience. any time that you're spending in the workshops, journal clubs, all of that. And we sort of consider this your second summer here. The next financial support, I guess, chunk you'll receive is your tuition remission and your stipend. And I'll be going over these in detail. Then once you get to the third summer, which Roger went over already, you'll have your immersion, which will earn up to $3,600, and that's hourly pay. And then the final sort of chunk of financial support from Exeter comes in the form of additional tuition remission and stipend. Okay, so I just wanted you all to see where you're headed in terms of financial support, so that if you have any questions about what's coming up when, you'll be able to refer to this. This timeline will be available on our website, so you can refer to that as needed going forward. So induction. Your payment for induction comes in the form of hourly pay. For those of you who started Exeter here during orientation, it's pretty much the same process in terms of filling out timesheets. So just as a refresher for those of you who are attending PSU for the first time, in order to get paid, you have to complete electronic timesheets, okay? And it's through PSU's BAMWeb system. It's the same system that you use when you're registering for classes, the same system that you use when you're accessing your financial aid packages. So you're basically going to log on there at least once a month to fill out your timesheet. Here are some important details for you to pay attention to when it comes to your timesheets. First is that the pay period runs the 16th through the 15th of each month. You'll be submitting your timesheet on the 15th of each month, and you'll again be covering all of the hours that you're spending in your ROC and in journal club and in workshops up to 80 hours. Okay, that piece is really important. If you end up reporting hours in excess of 80, we can't compensate you for that, okay? Consider it voluntary, right? So you'll be paid $15 an hour, up to $1,200 before taxes, right? And then also, I want you to pay particular attention to when your timesheets are due. So your very first timesheet is going to cover your section starting today through September 15th. You'll need to turn in that timesheet September 15th, okay? And then the second timesheet will be due October 15th, and that'll cover your hours September 16th through October 15th, okay? And your payment is the last business day of the month, okay? That is assuming everything is copacetic, you don't have any errors on your timesheet. When there's delays or when there's errors, there's a great likelihood that your payment will be delayed, okay? Whatever method of payment you sign up for, whether it's check or direct deposit, this will be the way in which you'll receive your hourly pay for the summer, okay? And that you would have indicated either in your new hire paperwork if you're a new student here at PSU, or in the new hire paperwork you submitted last year as part of orientation for Exeter, okay? Couple things to pay attention to. If you haven't gone to HR and completed all of your paperwork, meaning all of it, if you didn't submit your documentation as proof that you're eligible to work in the U.S., so passport, social security card, ID, all of that sort of stuff, anything that was missing, make sure to take care of that as soon as possible. Also, if you don't receive your payment by the first day of the next month, just let me know, okay, and then we can troubleshoot. Another thing is that it's super, super important for you to turn in your timesheet on time, because we review them within a couple days. Either they're approved or they're corrected. Again, the longer it takes for us to approve your timesheet, the likelihood that your payment might be delayed. Compensation is only for hours worked. So if for whatever reason you work less than 80 hours, you should expect to receive less than the 1200, okay? This part here is super, super, super important. You are considered student employees. PSU is a single employer. What that means is no matter how many jobs you have on campus, PSU is one employer. You cannot work more than 40 hours a week, okay? So if you have another position on campus, and you're doing your Exito induction time, make sure that those hours collectively do not exceed 40 hours a week, okay? We are not in position to pay you overtime for induction, okay? So that's basically what we're trying to avoid.
I have a question.
Yes?
What about, so I'm gonna do my lab before our session and after our session on Tuesdays and Thursdays. With the Oregon law, like you have to have like a lunch break or something, will that be noted on my timesheet?
So I will include that in the follow-up email that I send to you all. So also as hourly employees, you do have to observe the required federal breaks, which include, depending on the number of hours of your shift, paid breaks and unpaid lunch, okay? So I'll send you that information. It's a whole table that you look at based on the number of hours in each shift. So thank you for mentioning that, because you do have to take breaks. So you can't just work 8 hours straight and get paid for the full 8 hours. It doesn't work that way. You do need to make sure you're observing those federal break requirements. Okay. Moving on. The next is trainee appointment. So one of the things for you to be aware of is at this point in your Exito training, you're transitioning into a trainee. What does that mean? That basically means this is the point where the National Institutes of Health begins tracking you. When they are really interested in learning about your progress in your research placement, they want to know what goals you have for your project, what kind of progress you're making, if you're doing presentations, if you're publishing, all of this sort of stuff. And so we need to set you up in the NIH system so that you have a profile with them and that we can report in on your training period. So whenever you see the word trainee appointment, it's not an appointment like a calendar appointment. It's basically the range of dates by which you will be engaging in full-time training program, okay? For Exito, that means that you'll be in the RLC and you'll be participating in the enrichment workshops, and you'll be completing all of the other requirements that are listed on the scholar agreement, which Cassandra will be going over shortly. Here's some keywords, things that we'll be talking about over the next couple of years for you to just clue into. And they're going to be super important for you in terms of understanding what steps you're going to need to take for each different phase of your trainee preparation. So the first is your trainee appointment. So there are a number of steps that you're going to need to take. I'm going to walk you through all of them. They're mostly done electronically, where you'll get notifications via email. So the first step, which will begin with an email, is basically, as far as the NIH system is concerned, you have to set up your profile. They need to know who you are, where you're getting trained, what your degree goals are, all of that sort of stuff. So we're going to set up, it's called an ERA Commons ID for you, and you'll get a temporary password. You'll receive this via email, if not the end of this week, the beginning of next week. At that point, you'll just follow the instructions that are in the email, okay? Once you actually get that email, change your password, then we will we will require you to set up your profile. Again, you're going to get step-by-step instructions for this, so it's not anything for you to concern yourself with right now. Then, I'm going to set up your appointment, okay? So the appointments for this year basically start the first day of classes, and they end somewhere around the 24th of June, right? So basically, your hours for that whole time, right? You're going to be fully engaged in the program, completing all of the different requirements that are laid out in the scholar agreement. And then once you look at your appointment, see that it makes sense, it is the same information that I'm scribing to you verbally and in written form. You basically accept it, shoot it over to Carlos Crespo, who's our PI, and then you're done, okay? Step-by-step instructions you'll get with visuals and all of that sort of stuff. Just want you to know what's coming up ahead. This thing goes like boom, 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 boom. Like when you get the email, reset your password, set the appointment, you review all of that, okay? All of this has to be done before your remission is sent to financial aid, before you receive your stipend. So if you delay, we'll delay, okay? Next is monthly stipends. So, as an Exito trainee, you'll receive 9 monthly upcoming academic year, okay? The stipends are meant to offset your living expenses. They're not considered like hourly pay, okay? And they are awarded based on your successful progression and completion of the goals we have for you when it comes to the training program, okay? The form that I distributed, this one that has your name on it, is the key to you getting these stipends jumping off, okay? So we'll go over that in a moment. Just want to go over a couple of additional things here. So the total amount for the stipend, $1,049 per month, okay? This is not hourly pay, so there's not any taxes taken out up front. I'll go over taxes in the next section, but just realize that as you're getting these stipend payments that you may have a tax liability, okay? The second thing is that we typically disperse the stipends around the last business day of the month. So you should expect to receive somewhere around the 30th, 31st of each month. These stipends are processed manually, so that's something to keep in mind as you're planning your finances. Sometimes things happen where they might be a little bit delayed. For example, with the winter storms that happened this past year, the stipends were delayed because people weren't on campus to process them. So just something to keep in mind. We work really, really hard to make sure that your payments are dispersed on schedule, but sometimes there can be delays. You can anticipate a delay with your first check, okay? You should expect to receive it somewhere around the 6th of October, okay? And as I said before, you gotta get through the whole ERA Commons process. You have to submit your approved appointment in X-Train. X-Train is the module within ERA Commons where you set up your training appointment. These pieces here, the second bullet point, super important. It is federally required by NIH that you remain enrolled full-time throughout your entire training program. Okay. Full-time at PSU. So if you, for example, are thinking about co-enrolling in one of our partner community college campuses, you still have to be enrolled full-time at PSU. On these 12 credits, if you take classes at any other campus, those credits have to be above the 12 that are required here. And you have to get permission from our partners, okay? These are federal requirements. You also have to maintain enrollment in a biomedical major. If you have questions about whether your major or a major you're thinking of is counted as part of that biomedical group, please contact me. There's a really long, exhaustive list of majors that have been approved by NIH for this program, so don't hesitate to contact me about that. Also, if the policies and procedures for Exeter for this academic year are not followed, your stipend can be delayed. Your key to that is the scholar agreement, okay? If you're not adhering to the scholar agreement, your stipend can be delayed and or completely taken away. We haven't had to do that before, but just keep in mind that because you are in the process of completing this whole training program, any portion of it that you're not adhering to, you can lose your funding, okay? Before I go on to remission and fees, I'm just gonna pull back and go over the stipend payment form. So if you can pull this out. So it's a really simple form, but important for the manual processing part. So things for you to pay attention to. First is the ID number. Make sure the ID number that's printed on here matches your ID number. If there's an error, cross it out, write the correct number and initial. Same thing for your name. Make sure your name is printed correctly. If it's not, cross it out and write the correct name and initial. At the bottom here, in terms of stipend payment information, it's basically just noting what account number we're paying from, which is not of any consequence to you all. But you should be paying attention to the portion that's below that. Total payment for the participant. Okay, so this is across the academic year. You should expect to receive $9,441. and that comes in the form of 9 payments of $1,049, okay? And then at the bottom, you have, under the approvals, you have a line participant signature. That's the line I need you to sign and date to date. So in order for you to receive your stipend payment, you have to be set up as a vendor at PSU, and this is the document that I have to collect from you in order to establish that. So basically the information at the top is just requesting your name, your address, which is super important. If you put the wrong address or we don't have an up-to-date address, that can delay your stipend form. So that's just a tidbit as well. If you move at any point during the academic year, please let me know and send to me your updated address, Sabrina.
So if you're out of state, do you put your?
I would put your current address, like where you currently reside, okay? And then below you have your social security number, and then you have your residency status here. And then check the individual box in that next column. And then the last column on the right doesn't really apply to you because you're not a business. You have to put your social security number on there. Yes. Okay. Muhammad, you need one too? Okay. And then at the bottom, make sure you sign where the signature of individual or company is listed, and then put your phone and then the date. The second part of this form is if you want direct deposit for your stipend check, okay? So Cassandra sent out communication ahead of time to let you know that if you wanted to set up direct deposit, you have to bring a voided check for this. If you don't have a voided check with you, hold on to this form, get the voided check, and then drop this off at the Exeter office, okay?
Kramer Hall, 347.
Yeah.
If you already have direct deposit set with PSU, do you need to do that over again?
Do it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got to go with the second question. If everybody did it with bandwidth?
yeah. Do it anyway. Yeah. I put your mailing address. Yes.
So if you don't have a void check, just like void the routing number.
They need the void. They need the actual physically voided check.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Should we fill it out now for your void check office, or should we just come and fill out?
You can fill it out now, but you need to hold on to it because we don't want to have forms and checks separate. Just bring the whole thing together. Yes. So I can contact the accounts payable office for you. I know that for this particular form, they don't like taking deposit slips, but you might just need to go to your bank and get them to do a voided check for you. But I'll check for you and let you know. Yes.
Is it individual or?
Yes. Okay. So as you're done with that form, if you need to hold on to it, please do that. You can't take checks and forms separately. If you don't plan to set up direct deposit and you just have the form information, as you're done, just flag us and we'll come and pick it up. So that's something that you all can fill out, and then I'll pick it up when I'm done, because I want to get to the next portion of the presentation. Okay, so the next part of this is tuition and fees remission. So as an Exeter trainee, you will be receiving for this academic year 3 tuition and fee remission payments, okay? So remission is basically saying that Exeter is sending, the account's office a check for you to cover a portion of your tuition and fees. For residents, we pay 60% of the resident rate, okay? We also pay differential tuition. What that means is if your department charges a little bit extra, like honors, engineering, that sort of thing, we'll pay 60% of that rate, okay? For non-residents, we pay 60% of 1.5 times the resident rate. The differential rate applies to that as well. The best thing for you to do is, if you're trying to figure out, well, what does that look like? What does that mean? When I email you all after this presentation, I'll send you a link to the 2017-2018 fee and tuition schedule so that you can calculate how much you'll be expecting from us. Exeter only pays for 12 credits, okay? No more, no less. You can't be enrolled less than full-time, and we don't pay for more than 12 credits. So if you're enrolled for more than 12 credits, you're liable for the expenses that are tied to those additional credits. Yes?
What if we're in the process of becoming a resident?
Whatever your residency status is at the time we pay the remission, that's how we
So
process.
what we can do the next year?
Term by term. Yeah. So each term, as we're processing your remission, we have to check your registration status. And we check your department. So if you happen to change departments, mid-year or from one term to the next, it'd be great if you let us know so that we can budget accordingly. But if your residency changes, if your department changes, if you get a new fee added, something like that, we'll adjust the remission accordingly. Keep in mind, Exeter does not pay health insurance. We are federally restricted from paying health insurance. So whatever fees you get connected to health insurance, you'll be responsible for those payments, okay? We pay the remission once a month, once an academic term, okay? And you have to be enrolled full-time for us to pay the remission. So if at the point we process remission, which is usually a couple days before the term starts, if you're not enrolled full-time, we will not pay. Okay, so it's best if you anticipate, maybe if you're trying to get a permission number or you're trying to see if there's seats available in the class that you're intending to register in, just send me an email and let me know. Okay, question, Emma?
Yeah, so it says tuition and fee remission, but when it just talks about tuition, is that talking about like lab fees or things like that?
Yeah. The only fee that we don't pay is connected to health.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we're taking more than 12 credits, do you know if they're gonna give us back like a little bit of financial aid for that?
So one thing about, thank you for asking that question. One thing that's super important when it comes to Exeter is your financial circumstances are different from everybody else. So I can't tell you what you would get back. It'd be all based on how your financial aid package is set up. So we do, when we basically sign you up as a trainee, we send your stipend and your tuition remission information to financial aid. So it's considered part of your financial aid package. Because of that, each of your circumstances in terms of how the Exeter awards will impact your aid is very individualized. So one thing I say very clearly to all the cohorts, do not listen to anyone else in your cohort about how their loan is working, right? I'll say it again, do not listen to anyone else about how the money is working for your package, right? There's really great financial aid counselors here with whom you can consult. We have a financial aid counselor for Exeter. I'll be sending the name of that person in the email as well. Also, if you have any questions about your financial aid package when it comes to the Exeter award, contact me directly. And don't be afraid to ask a question that you think you should know the answer to already. If your circumstances are changing, you think they might change, just give me a heads up so that we'll know how to prepare. There's some changes where we have to go back to financial aid and do some updates. There's a question back there.
I just want to know, are the financial aid offices open this week?
if you have questions about your financial aid at this point, to go this week, right? Don't wait until, because we've already sent the information about your Exito funding to financial aid. So if you want to know how it appears, because it doesn't come up as like Exito, right? That would be too much like easy, right? It comes up as something else. I think in the payments, area or something.
Like the additional options.
Additional-
It should be there.
Yeah, but it doesn't come up like Exito, whatever. So if you want to get help with interpreting, with projecting, how things will look, or if you just have any questions about any unmet need, make sure you go and talk to the folks in financial aid before everybody comes back to campus. Another question?
Yeah, so you said that revision is processed in a few days before the term begins. Does that mean our financial aid can still possibly change? Or now that it is under additional resources, it's kind of set for when the term starts?
It's already set. So think about it as a two-step process. So we let financial aid know that the money is coming, but we actually have to remit the payment to your account, right? So the remitting of the payment happens like a couple days before classes start. There's some instances where it might start late, might be submitted later, but don't worry about that. We get the payments in before any sort of late fees, are generated. That's another thing. Make sure if you're on a payment plan, that you're sort of considering calculating that anticipated Exito aid into that. Again, if you have questions, contact a financial aid counselor. We don't want you to overpay and then wait to get the money back, right? If you plan to be on a payment plan, make sure you're making your payment on time. Whatever portion of the financial obligation you're responsible for, make sure you do that payment. There's a question over here.
When you're doing the tuition and fees, we're always charged October 6th, like our tuition due. Are you going to put this in and then what it shows that we pay is the adjusted after you pay, or are you sending the money to us in our accounts and then we're just putting it on
So we send the money to financial aid and they apply it to your account,
So
right?
we shouldn't see the money, it should just.
No, so you will not be, for the tuition remission, you will not get a check from Exito, right? This goes directly to the financial aid office. More questions? Yes?
This is just consistent with 5 terms, right? We're expecting the same thing after the 5 terms?
Not exactly. Thank you for asking that. So the information I'm giving you now is just for the upcoming academic year, okay? During the next academic year, you'll receive 2 terms of remission and stipend. Also, the stipend level is federally funded. It's federally determined and adjusted each year. So I can't tell you exactly what your stipend payment will be next year. They increase it somewhere around $28 each year, I think, for cost of living. But because we're federally funded, I can't, guarantee that you'll receive any particular amount, but it's never been lower. So yes, you'll receive the 3 terms this year. We do not pay for summer classes. Something just to keep in mind. So if for whatever reason your enrollment changes and you need to take classes for the summer, you can't just move your remission over to summer. Okay? I think I'm going to leave the trainee timesheet piece to the next conversation just for the sake of time. But I think, and I've already gone over the final notes. We're going to be working on some frequently asked questions as well, so that you'll have a reference point when you have questions about your aid, things that you may not be thinking about, like, what if I do an internship? How does my Exito funding work there? What if I want to study abroad? How does the Exito funding work there? So you'll have some additional references, okay? So that's it for me. I will stick around until after Cassandra's done to pick up your W-9 forms. And I'm around, so feel free to ask questions. Stop by the Exito office, or you all can email me, and I'll be sending you an email soon with more questions. Yeah, the last question.
Were you gonna go over the tax portion?
In the next presentation, yeah, it's a whole thing. So I want to give you all the proper amount of time to ask questions. Thank you.
And so the Scholar Success Committee is committed to making sure that you guys are getting everything out of the program that you were promised, and also that you're fulfilling all of the scholar expectations. So what Dacia is passing out right now is the Scholar Agreement. The purpose of the Scholar Agreement is just so that you guys clearly understand what the scholar expectations are. So I would like everyone just to go through, review the Scholar Agreement, and then sign on the back. There's also just some information that we want to get from you, like your Portland State email addresses, and then I can go over some of the more important scholar expectations. They already went over timesheets a little bit, so. What? So scholar agreement, or training timesheets are due on the 15th of every month. They also went over the fact that you guys need to be full-time. Let's see what else. So the main point of the Scholar Success Committee is just to kind of bridge the gap and have a communication with you. So if you guys have any concerns about not meeting one of the scholar expectations, or you foresee that you might not meet one of the scholar expectations, just come see the Scholar Success Committee. You can email us at exitossc@pdx.edu, and we're more than happy to kind of be proactive about any challenges you guys might face. Does anyone have any questions about the scholar agreement? I'll let you guys read through it. What was the email? What if we have a course conference?
Yeah, so the enrichment team is currently meeting to determine what requirements will be and what the challenges, or if you guys have any course conflicts, how they'll resolve that. So I can't answer that at that time because it's the enrichment team's decision, but they'll be reaching out soon with that information. And they'll be going over it in the first enrichment sections.
again, and we're also going to have you guys working with your senior cohort scholars for some of these workshops, and they're a really great resource for information. They spent the last year and some getting their head around how the nuts and bolts of Exito work. So make sure that you use them because their brains are full of this stuff. So what we are going to do today is introduce more nuts and bolts of how these workshops are actually going to work and how that's going to help you guys transition into your RLCs, into your research placements. Because you may have already met with some of your research mentors and you may already be feeling kind of overwhelmed by this extremely foreign environment in which it seems like everybody knows stuff that you don't know. So I hope that by the end of this workshop you understand that you're not alone in that feeling and that there are some really great strategies to help you work through feeling overwhelmed by that. So it's natural, but it's certainly not necessary. And what we want is for you guys to feel comfortable in your research environments, and that's what we're here to help you with. So I've already given you sort of the first part of this schedule. Dr. Wolf and Cassandra Ramirez, who does everything around here, I should say, have done a great job of introducing the financials and some of the logistics around the program itself. So I am going to continue to introduce the program by first introducing you to this summer induction course. We have a really great tool through which we can share information with you guys here at PSU. Most of you guys who are taking classes at PSU are already familiar with this website, D2L, which changed over the summer. When you get to be my age, when the interfaces and things change, like smoke starts pouring out of my ears. So D2L is a little bit different than it did last spring, but I was able to figure it out. I have no doubt that you guys can figure it out. So those of you guys who are new to D2L can find access to many of your course materials, including this workshop, at this website, d2l.pdx.edu. You log in with your Portland State email username, as well as your Portland State email password. So you want to get used to using those PSU email addresses. We're going to be communicating with you from Exito through those PDX email addresses. It is generally more professional to communicate with a professional email address, like an academic email address, than it is with a personal email address. You're going to want to use those email addresses. You can find those materials on our course shell, which is called Exito Cohort 2 Research Intensive Materials. So here I am, d2l.pdx.edu. I logged in with my username, which is my email address already, and my password, which I'm not going to tell you. And I found a homepage that looked a little bit like this, a lot like this, exactly like this. In fact, under your My Courses, if you haven't been into this page at all, you'll see nothing here. We'll actually see your courses when you go into this View My Courses area. In that View My Courses area, you'll have a bunch of unpinned courses. I suggest that you pin our course, Cohort 2 Research Materials, to your start page by clicking up here and clicking pin. I'm already pinned, so here's a better example. Clicking here and pinning it to your start page so that when you first log into D2L, you'll see our Cohort 2 tab under your courses. Lots of useful information is going to turn up there. I'm going to get as much financial information as I can up there. I'll get a copy of the scholar agreement there so that when you want to refer to something or when you know that something is lost in your email, you can always check this D2L page to see if those resources are there. And you can ask me to put stuff on the D2L page. So this is going to tell you how this class works, and you guys already know that we're going to meet here in this room at 10 o'clock every morning and go over stuff that I hope is really helpful for you. And let's begin by reviewing some of that stuff that we're going to go over. So we've already talked about the D2L page, which looks like this for our course. What we're going to do in this course is come to this room and talk about how it is that you guys can manage your strategies for integrating it into your RLC. Also for managing your time around your research time as well as your course time during the academic year. Also help you with some future directions if you are planning on going into a biomedical field. All of that stuff is going to happen through various sessions that we have. We have a lot of help in this course. So I'm going to be primarily running the 10 o'clock workshops, but at 11 o'clock we're going to split into smaller groups in which we will integrate with our senior scholars who are in the back of the room. Can you guys wave? So they are going to help us do a lot of things, including learning how to read research papers and generally helping you guys navigate through the program. And then we have two outstanding graduate assistants who are here today, Decatur and Brett, the future Dr. Younginger and the future Dr. Foster. are running the immersion program, and they're going to come in and help us with our 11 o'clock journal clubs. And then we have 3 more GAs who are not here, also outstanding. Which is really the best bio department. It's GAs, Christina, Amy, and Adrian. Some of you guys know Adrian. Got checks because she's been working with Exito as well. So that's the personnel. This is how to get in touch with us. My email address, which I left off the slide, but is on the syllabus, is already at pdx.edu, and that's typically the fastest way to get in touch with me. All right, so journal clubs and workshops are mandatory, 16 hours, 4 hours per week. If you're not going to be here, email me, because we have mechanisms for you to make up these hours. If you can't, of course, there are always times we can't be here. However, it is best if you guys are here, because we are delivering a lot of essential information, in particular during the 10 o'clock sessions. So we'd like you to see that as many times as you can. We'd also like you to see that in the context of your cohort, because peer support is a really useful way to consolidate information. All right, so what we want from this course is for you guys to do really well in school, to have a really productive experience in your RLC, to make great connections with the people in your RLC as well as within the program, because this professional network that you build will create opportunities for you in the future, also create great opportunities to get letters of recommendation, which may mean a lot more to you as you move through your junior and senior year. It's really handy to have relationships with people in which you've actually spent time with them and shown them how creative and constructive and productive you can be, because that enables people like me to write these really strong letters, as opposed to saying, student number 962 got a B+ in my class, which does not make for a very good recommendation. We want you guys to get to know your cohorts as well as the senior cohorts, because you have a lot of useful information to share with one another, not just about the Exito program, but about how to get to graduate school or medical school, or how to navigate tricky situations with your research mentor or your peers. So that's really helpful. And the big piece that's going to come out of our journal club is a development of critical thinking skills around research-based academia. And that's huge, and I hope that that's the most satisfying part of this program, is that it introduces you to a lot of information that can change the way that you think in a way that can open the world up around you, and also open up your level of engagement with the things that you're studying in the classroom, in addition to what you're seeing in your labs. So we're going to do that by having a series of sessions. I won't go through every one here with you, but you have this on the second page of this packet that I gave you guys, which is the course syllabus. This is a very handy document. It's got a lot of information about expectations around the workshop and summer induction in general. So please review this. That's your homework assignment, is to review this document comprehensively. An electronic version is available on the D2L page in the right-hand tab here under 2017 induction materials. Please feel free to reach out to me if you want anything to appear on this webpage that you don't already see. All right, so 10 o'clock. The 10 o'clock workshops are presented here. These are the topics for the 10 o'clock workshop, but you guys know that we're going to be here at 11 o'clock as well. So from 11 to 12, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to break into small groups and start developing some of those critical thinking skills by doing something that's called a journal club, which is exactly what it sounds like. When I first started doing journal clubs, it was this extremely stressful thing, because it involves reading papers that have been published by by primary researchers. And these are really technical documents that can be really overwhelming when you first start looking at them, but can become very easy to get your head around once you develop some strategies of how to do this and do it a bunch of times. And so that's the goal of these journal clubs, are to expose you to this advanced literature, teach you how to break it up into simpler pieces so it doesn't feel overwhelming, and then repeat that process over and over and over again until you become like the people in the back of the room who can knock out understanding a research paper in, I'm going to say 15 minutes.
50.
Depending on the level of understanding that you have. My goal is for you guys to be able to look at a paper within a half an hour and really get a lot out of it without having to develop an ulcer in the process. So the goal of the journal clubs is really to manage the stress around reading primary literature, which for me was really, really challenging. There might be people out there who knock it out first time around, but I don't know any of those people. So Journal Club is going to introduce you guys to this concept of understanding academic literature. first look at it, it looks like a Greek because it's written by people who are not usually writers. That doesn't necessarily mean they're bad writers, but it often does mean that they're bad writers. These are scientists who are writing technical papers in journals that communicate the results that they have produced from the research that they're doing in the lab. So this is hot off the presses. It's the first time that this information is entering the public arena. Publication is really important in the process of moving through academia. It is how you show people that you have been productive in the lab. You don't just get to stand in the lab and mix clear liquids and clear tubes and collect a paycheck. You got to show people that you're being productive and that you're adding something to the world and what we know about the world, and that happens because we publish our research. So that's all good and well, but then what do people do with that research? They read it. People who don't publish it, they read it and they critically evaluate it, because you can very easily, like anyone who's read a blog knows, you can write unsubstantiated things and put a lot of bad information out into the world. And so the way that we in academia prevent this from happening is through this process of peer review as well as critical evaluation of these research papers. We're going to go over that in greater detail in the next session that we have, but for now I want you to understand that the purpose of these papers are to publish research that's being done in the lab, new research, and the purpose of our reading these papers are so that we can critically evaluate this research and be sure that these authors are putting something useful out into the world, but also so we can learn about how new research is done. So a lot of creativity and critical thinking skills are developed in that process of reading academic literature. So how are we going to do that? Well, after our 10 o'clock session, at 11 o'clock, we're going to meet in small groups and discuss these assigned articles. We're not actually going to do that until week 2 of our journal club. In week 1, I really want to just introduce to you guys the concept of academic literature, where to find it and how to read it. Then in week 2, I'm going to pick articles from your RLCs, and you guys are going to break into these small groups. On the last few pages of the packet, you'll see the small group assignments here. So each group has one graduate assistant, graduate facilitator, and then it has a group of seniors, so anywhere from 2 to 4 seniors who will show up and interact with you guys, and then a list of 12 to 13 juniors, you guys, cohort 2, who will all work together to try and understand what a given paper means and what it is that you should be taking away from the paper. So I know that's a lot of information. You're going to get it again, but for now, know that you have these group assignments that are available not only in this packet, but also on the D12 page, so below the basic information in the induction materials. I have put these group assignments so you always have a place to refer to them. So for this week, we're not actually going to be discussing the articles or worksheets. I'm going to give you guys worksheets to show us that you've read the articles. We are instead going to learn how to find articles from your own RLC. It's going to be really helpful for you guys in terms of understanding what your RLC is doing, and then we're going to learn how to actually read those papers. So, how do you do a literature search? Literature search is kind of like a Google search. You use a search engine that will specifically return results of papers that have been published in a large electronic library of journals that accept these particular types of publications. So why would you want to do a literature search? If you want to know about something, say you want to know about, pick a topic from your RLC.
Alzheimer's.
What?
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. Say you want to know about Alzheimer's. A really great way to learn about current research in Alzheimer's is not to Google it, because you're probably going to get a lot of bad information. I love that. I love this card. Just get all the sources from your research paper from a Google search, said no professor ever. The whole point of this is that we want to critically evaluate our sources, and looking at academic literature sort of surpasses that first layer of criticism in that these are journal articles that have been accepted into a journal because they've been reviewed by peers who are experts in their field. So we want to find out about Alzheimer's by doing a literature search, and we can do that in a number of different ways. We're going to start today by using the library at PDX, which is an electronic resource that is associated with our library. And it is great because they have paid for subscriptions to a lot of different journals, and so that gives us access to all kinds of things. So here's where you're going to find out that I don't know how to spell Alzheimer's. So if you go to this link that I gave you guys on the in the PowerPoint presentation, you'll see that at library.pdx.edu you will get a search tool that allows you to search for anything. And so what I see here, what I put in Alzheimer's, is a whole bunch of articles that have been published with the word Alzheimer's in the title. So that's a really great way to start your literature search. However, let's say you want to learn about Alzheimer's from a particular RLC leader. Does your RLC leader study Alzheimer's? What's
Allison Lindor. Allison Lindor.
Oh, Alison Lindauer, yeah. So let's say that Sabrina wants to know not just about Alzheimer's, but what Alison Lindauer, who is her PI who works at OHSU, has to say about it. And so what we can do is add Allison's name to this, and I'm probably not doing this correctly. So what we need to do is browse, do a more complex browse in which we do keyword, and then we want the author to be Alison Lindauer. Am I spelling that correctly, Sabrina?
I think so.
So, let's get rid of this and see if we can get any papers from Dr. Lindauer. That was not looking.
I think it was spelled wrong.
Aha! There we go. Thank you. Okay, so and here we go. Now we've narrowed our search to papers about Alzheimer's that have been published by an author with the name Lindauer. And so you can go through and look for Allison. You can also actually look at the article and see if it's been published by a person named Lindauer who is at the institution where it actually makes sense. And so the way that you would do that is then find the article here. If PSU has a subscription to this, then there will be a link to the actual article, and it looks to me.
I think you have to sign in to show that you're a PSU person.
Yeah, okay, so you typically don't have to do that from on campus, but apparently I do. So here we go. So we didn't get any available resources from the PSU library. However, we might. Yeah, so this particular journal is not available at the PSU library, but we might be able to find the article through another link. Let's see if we can do that. And in fact, there it is. Right, so here we have the paper. We're going to find out where this was published. So we can follow these little links, and we see that these authors are from the Oregon Health and Science University, so that tells us we found the right author. All right, so that's how you do a literature search, and what I want you guys to do for today is to find a paper from your own RLC by using these tools at the PDX library, which right now may not mean a whole lot. It's just showing you how to find the paper. When we come back on Thursday, we're going to figure out how to actually read these papers. So today, what you want to do is go to a computer. I'll tell you where these computer labs are. Get on the PDX library website, which is going to look a little bit like this, and navigate to a paper by your RLC leader by doing a lit search. So before you guys put your stuff away, I have to give you guys some very valuable information on how and where to go. I also want you guys to practice logging into the D2L page if you haven't done so, and pinning the article, pinning our course page to your front page. So groups 1 and 2, you'll find your names on this list on the final pages of the PowerPoint. Groups 1 and 2 are going to go to SB1409 with our GAs, Brett and Decatur, who will receive a key from me in a second. And then groups 3 to 5 are going to go to the PDX library with me, along with the senior facilitators. So once the library group meets down here, and the SB1 group
I'll write it down.